begin.
Welcome everybody to wisetake.com MMA DFS podcast. I'm your host, Jeff, aka Wigsplitter. Today we're going to be going over UFC 219 for DraftKings. First look, starting on the early prelims card, we have Marvin Vettori versus Omari Akhmedov. Both these guys are grapplers. Both of them have slight cardio issues. Vettori's salary on DraftKings is $8,600. Currently, he is a minus 225 favorite going up against Akhmedov. He's $7,600 salary. He's a plus 180 underdog. Vettori, he's a grinder. He's average power, solid grappling. Like I said, both these guys, their cardio, they tend to gas when it comes to later on in the fights. Akhmedov, he'll use his strikes to set up his takedowns. First look, salary-wise, I would take a flyer, GPP-wise, on Akhmedov, just because of his Sambo background, and I think he'll probably put a little more pressure on Vettori, but I could see Vettori grinding out a victory, going for a decision. Both of them average over 2 takedowns a fight. Takedowns equal points. Both of them have average takedown defense. They both have average significant strikes per minute. So I would say they're fairly evenly matched. I think Vettori probably has the edge in the striking. Akhmedov does tend to eat a couple punches in order to try to execute the takedown. So that's the first fight on the early prelims. Moving on to the next fight, we have Tim Elliott going up against Mark De La Rosa. I believe Tim Elliott's, this is the second time he's had a fight replaced. His salary on DraftKings is $9,000, which is pretty pricey. He's a minus 225 favorite going up against De La Rosa. $7,200 salary is plus 185. Underdog, he's making his UFC debut. He's also taking this fight on short notice. From the video I was able to find, he does have solid submission skills, but it is against lower level competition. I think one of the fighters he did win against does have UFC experience, so it gives him a little bit of credibility. But Tim Elliott has fought some of the best guys in his weight division. He is the 11th ranked guy right now. He has very aggressive takedowns. In his last fight against Schmolka, I think he landed 12 takedowns, which, if you look at his fight log, it pumped his score way up there. Plus, I think he grinded out the win. So, but Schmolka has issues on his own. But 9,000, that's sort of up there. I mean, depending on how the roster build goes, I'm not sure if I could, at this point right here, I would want to roster Tim Elliott at this time. So we'll have to see how the roster build goes on Friday. Moving on to the first fight in the FS1 prelims, we have Luis Smolka versus Mateusz Nicolau. Smolka's salary is $7,300. He's a plus 240 underdog. Nicolau is $8,900 salary and is a minus 280 favorite. Now, Nicolau is an aggressive, come-forward fighter, solid submission skills, very good counter striker, good power. Schmolka is an average striker. He has a karate and judo background. He has below-average takedown defense. Nicolau has 100% takedown defense. Both of them average a little over 1.5 takedowns per fight. I could see Nicolau stuffing Smolka's takedowns and it turning into a stand-up battle. Both of them average over 3 strikes per minute. I'm leaning more Nicolau towards roster build. Shmoka, I wouldn't necessarily count him out because I think he's probably fighting for his contract right now. So it's possible that he probably going to want to push harder if he wants to keep his contract. At 7,300, he might be worth a flyer, but I think Nicolau's probably going to come out victorious on this one. Moving on to the next fight, we have Miles Jury versus Rick Glenn. I counted Rick Glenn out his last fight, but at the same time, Miles Jury is a very he's a solid grappler with good ground and pound. He has intense top control. Now, Rick Glenn is a pressure come forward fighter. He's a high volume striker. He averages over 5 strikes per minute. He has solid takedown defense. He averages 1 takedown per fight. Jury, on the other hand, is over 2.5 takedowns per fight. So takedowns equal points. Glenn's high volume striking at 5.6 significant strikes per minute helps him at that price, 7,400. I think he's going to give Jury some fits here. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. Jury is coming off of a layoff. Also, he has weight cutting issues, so it's going to be interesting to see if he makes weight. Miles Jury's salary is 8,800. He's a minus 240 favorite. Glenn is 7,400 salary, and he's a minus minus 200? No, he can't be. I think I wrote that down wrong. I think he's a plus 200 underdog. Sorry about that. I would definitely take a flyer on Glenn in a GPP, especially for the salary relief. I think he has a good chance of possibly paying off his salary. Even if he in the loss, I think I could see him getting 50 to 60 points, 45 to 50 points, I would say. Which doesn't necessarily pay it off, but if he's able to come over and just not necessarily overwhelm Jury, but if Jury if he starts slow and Glenn overwhelms him, it could possibly be an upset. But roster build wise, I think I'm not going to roster Jury just because of the layoff, and then with Glenn being such a formidable opponent, I think that if anything, I would take a flyer on Glenn in a GPP. Moving on to the next fight, we have Dan Hooker versus Mark Diakese. Hooker's salary is 7,500. He's a plus 155 underdog. Diakese is 8,700 salary, and he's a minus 175 favorite. Hooker is a high volume striker. He uses leg kicks to gauge his distance. He averages over 4 significant strikes per minute. He has solid takedown defense. Diakese is a aggressive grappler. He usually throws his strikes with ill intentions. I mean, he puts everything behind it, which tends to drain his gas tank. He also has very aggressive takedowns. He averages 3 takedowns per fight. He does have a pretty good striking defense. He doesn't get hit. He doesn't absorb as many punches as Hooker does. Hooker absorbs 4.73 punches per minute, and also Diakese is only 2. So, with that being said, I think I'm leaning a little more towards Diakese. His salary is workable at 8,700. Hooker is at 7,500. He's I'm not sure if I could roster him in a GPP or not. It depends on how much salary I would have left over, and if I was willing to take that flyer. But I think, first look, I think Diakese should grind out a victory over Hooker. But you never know. Moving on to the next fight, we have Khalil Roundtree versus Mikhail Olichuk. Now, Roundtree, his salary is 9,400. He's a minus 290 favorite. Oleksiejczuk is 6,800 salary. He's a plus 245 underdog. I know Roundtree has rubbed a lot of people wrong with his antics in the ring, but he's a high-paced push-forward fighter. He's a grinder. He has solid power. Now, Oleksiejczuk, he's making his UFC debut. He's an aggressive come-forward fighter with decent power. Looks like he has a solid chin from the video I was able to see. But that's against lower-level opponents. Roundtree, his last 2 fights, he's looked pretty good. I think it was Kelly that he fought last. I think he made a decision to where he was going to focus and try not to be as friendly in the ring, like try to be anybody's buddy. And he's moving more towards like, this is my mission and I am in there to destroy. He's a heavy favorite for a reason. I think this is a tough task for Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. And I could see Roundtree finishing him in the second round or possibly early in the first round. Just because of his power. If you put Roundtree into your lineup, you're sort of handicapping yourself by getting anybody else. So you're gonna, when you build your roster, you're gonna have to really take a look and make a decision on which high-priced fighter you want to put in your lineup, because the DraftKings pricing for this event is. It's pretty hard to. You're going to have to pick the couple underdogs in order to make sure, or formidable underdogs that'll help you get to where you want to be. So moving on to the first fight into the main card, we have Carlos Condit versus Neil Magny. I'm a huge Carlos, the natural born killer Condit fan ever since his WEC days, Strikeforce days. It's just ridiculous, man. I'm telling you, this dude he's fun to watch. I mean, he comes in, coming to brawl, throws heavy knees in the clinch, elbows from all angles, kicks to the body, the legs. He has below average takedown defense. That's probably one of the only holes in his game, but he does have solid submissions. So I think that's where he's lacking. If he does get taken down, that's where he makes up for it. Magny, on the other hand, Condit regressed a little bit. He is actually coming off a long layoff. I think it's over a year. His last fight was in August of 2016 against Damian Maia, where he almost retired, I think, or he mentioned at it. So I'm not sure if he's in this fight for a paycheck or if he sees this fight as something he can win. Now moving on to Neil Magny. Magny's fought almost, I think, 3 or 4 times this year. I think this might be his 4th fight. So he's a little bit more of the busier fighter, of course. Both these guys have good cardio. Both of them are decent grapplers. Both of them have solid striking. The edge, I think, in grappling goes to Magny. He averages more takedowns, 2.66 takedowns per minute. They both average over or just under 4 significant strikes per minute. I think this could be, if Condit can keep the fight standing, it just turns into a brawl, and I would have to give the edge to Condit. But at the same time, Magny has a fighting chance just because of the ring rust, and I'm not sure where Condit's mind is at. But if the good old natural born killer comes in the ring, it could be a wrap for Neil. But it should be a good fight. I think first look, actually, I'm leaning a little more Neil Magny. But I'm not sure how the roster build will go out. Moving on to the next fight, we have Cynthia Calvillo versus Carla Esparza. Calvillo's riding a hot streak right now. She's 3-0 in the UFC. She's a high-volume striker with solid submission skills. She averages a little under 2 takedowns per fight. Her salary is $9,200. She's a -255 favorite going up against Esparza. who's the 7,000 salary plus 215 underdog. Esparza is a gritty grappler. She averages almost 5 takedowns per fight. She likes grinding her opponents out, grinding the victory out. So I could see this one playing out pretty well because Calvillo is a submission expert, or she likes using her BJJ to gain the advantage. So if Carla decides to take her down, she's going to play right into the hands of Calvillo, which could be bad for Esparza. I'm not sure. I could see this actually going to a decision. So I'm not sure if I'd want to roster Calvillo, even though I'm picking her to win. I'm not sure if she pays off that 9,200 salary. Moving on to the next fight, we have Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Edson Barboza. Khabib is just he's one of the most dominant grapplers. He has insane takedowns. He averages 6 takedowns per fight. He has very strong ground and pound. He averages 3.82 strikes per minute. He doesn't necessarily get hit too much. He only absorbs 1.5 punches per minute. So he uses his strikes. He's a very unorthodox striker. He throws like a looping hook. It's not a normal striking hook. So he's currently 8-0. A lot of people give this guy a hard time because there was a video out that said, or he ordered, he ordered tiramisu for the whole table, which was only like 3 pieces. It was for technically, I'm not sure if he ate it or not. Who cares, to be honest with you? If he makes the weight, I think Edson Barboza has a very tough fight ahead of him. Barboza is a crazy dynamic striker. He throws spinning kicks from all angles. He throws straight kicks to the liver. He's a very dynamic striker. Nurmagomedov is 9,100 salary, is a minus 280 favorite. Barboza 7,100 salary, is a plus 240 favorite. And honestly, Barboza does have the power to knock anybody out, especially with his awkward, or not his awkward, but his dynamic spinning kicks. But the challenge with that is if he misses, or if Nurmagomedov times it and he's able to shoot in for the takedown, he could just get grounded into the ground. And with Nurmagomedov having a dominant top game, it's a possibility that Nurmagomedov either A, grinds out a victory, or he just pounds him into submission. I'm leaning Nurmagomedov to win this one, and 9,100 his salary is workable. It's up there, but it's not come way up there, and I think it's going to be a dynamic enough fight to where he's lands enough takedowns and enough strikes to where he pays off his salary. And Barboza is actually worth a GPP flyer just because of the dynamic, his dynamic striking. So if you're going to make a Nurmagomedov lineup, Barboza is definitely worth a GPP flyer, especially for the salary relief. Now moving on to the main events, we have Cyborg versus Holm. This is a very interesting fight. Cyborg is hands down one of the most dominant women fighters we have seen, or just fighters in general we have seen in any time. Holly Holm is one of the best counter strikers. She has some insane head kicks. She sets up her head kick by chopping at the body. Once her opponent drops her elbow to cover the body, she throws this, it's like a weird switch kick where it looks like she's going to go to the body, and then she just pulls her foot over the hand and strikes to the head. We saw it in the Beth Correa fight, and we saw what happened to Ronda Rousey, eating a shin to the face. But I don't see Cyborg falling into that issue. Cyborg has high volume strikes. I think she's going to methodically stalk Holm, and Holm's probably going to try to frustrate her by keeping the distance and circling the ring and trying to use the sidekick to gauge distance and keep distance. But I could see Cyborg finally gauging the distance and closing the distance and either coming with the chest-to-body throw, taking her down, and maybe working her with ground and pound, or forcing her up to the fence and just grinding her out with some dirty boxing, some heavy knees in the clinch. But yeah, I think Cyborg's going to win. I don't think it's going to be as easy as some of her fights, but I could see her grinding Holly Holm out. And if you're willing to take a GPP flyer on Holly Holm, I wouldn't be mad at that, but I would go light. I wouldn't put her in a big tourney. Or if you do, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, if that opens up a lot. If you go Holly Holm 6,900 and then you used Barbosa at 7,100, and you could take a couple of the other favorites that you would like maybe Roundtree, Jury, Nicolau. You might be able to fit all those guys in. The other fight that was on the card was Jimmy Rivera, John Lineker. Lineker had to pull from the fight due to injury. And there was no opponent available. I think Marlon Moraes was offered a fight, but at the, I guess with the time frame, he wasn't able to, or he was having an injury that he had to nurse, that he wasn't able to accept the fight. I want to thank you guys all again for watching. I really appreciate it. Nobody's perfect when it's coming to predicting fights or fight wins, but I do fairly well in DraftKings. And it's the holidays. Christmas just passed. New Year's is coming up. After New Year's, I think there's another fight coming up after that. But I appreciate your guys' time, taking your time out of your day to listen to me go over my first look for DraftKings. And as always, have fun out there. Head on over to wisetake.com. We have a special running. If you sign up for the monthly subscription, it is $29.99, I believe. We also have a 10% off discount. It's type in code Happy Holidays, no spaces. Also, we have day passes for $250 if you are not into commitment. But we have a lot of guys winning money in basketball right now. A lot of guys are hitting money in MMA. You can always hit me up on Twitter at JEFPO. Follow us at wise_take on Twitter. If you're listening to us on Podbean, give us Podbeans or iTunes. Make sure you give us those 5-star reviews. It really helps us out. We wouldn't ask you to do it if it didn't mean anything, and we really do appreciate it. From everybody over here at Wise Take, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. I will see you guys on the next card. You guys be safe and have fun out there. Make that money.
Yeah.